Men of Iron, Chapter 5. The Earl of Mackworth. As was customary among the great lords in those days, maintained a small army of knights, gentlemen, men-at-arms, and retainers, who were expected to serve him upon all occasions of need, and from whom was supplied his quota of recruits to fill such levies as might be made upon him by the king in time of war. The knights and gentlemen of this little army of horse and foot soldiers were largely recruited from the company of squires and bachelors, as the young novitate soldiers of the castle were called. This company of esquires consisted of from 80 to 90 lads, ranging in age from 8 to 20 years. Those under 14 years were termed pages, and served chiefly the countess and her waiting gentlewomen, in whose company they acquired the graces and polish of the times, such as they were. After reaching the age of 14, the lads were allowed to use the title of esquire or squire. In most of the great houses of the time, the esquires were the special attendants upon the lord and lady of the house, holding such positions as body squires, cup-bearers, carvers, and sometimes the office of chamberlain. But Devlin, like some other of the princely castles of the greatest nobles, was more like a military post or fortress than an ordinary household. Only comparatively few of the squires could be used in personal attendance upon the earl. The others were trained more strictly in arms, and served rather in the capacity of a sort of bodyguard than as ordinary squires. For as the earl rose in power and influence, and as it became so well worth while for the lower nobility and gentry to enter their sons in his family, the body of squires became almost cumbersomely large. Accordingly, that part which comprised the squires proper, as separate from the younger pages, was divided into 3 classes. First, squires of the body, who were those just past pagehood, and who waited upon the earl in personal service. Second, squires of the household, who, having regular hours assigned for exercise in the manual of arms, were relieved from personal service excepting upon special occasions. And third and last, the head of the whole body of lads, a class called bachelors, young men ranging from 18 to 20 years of age. This class was supposed to exercise a sort of government over the other and younger squires, to keep them in order as much as possible, to marshal them upon occasions of importance, and to see that their arms and equipment were kept in good order, to call the roll for chapel in the morning, and to see that those not on duty in the hours were present at the daily exercise at arms. Orders to the squires were generally transmitted through the bachelors, and the head of that body was expected to make weekly reports of affairs in their quarters to the chief captain of the body. From this overlordship of the bachelors there had generally risen a system of fagging, such as is or was practised in the great English public schools, enforced services extracted from the younger lads, which at the time Myles came to Delvin had, in the 5 or 6 years it had been in practice, grown to be an absolute through unwritten law of the body, a law supported by all the prestige of long-continued usage. At that time the bachelors numbered but 13, yet they exercised over the rest of the 64 squires and pages a rule of iron, and were taskmasters, hard, exacting, and oftentimes cruel. The whole company of squires and pages was under the supreme command of a certain one-eyed knight, by name Sir James Lee, a soldier seasoned by the fire of a dozen battles, and bearing a score of wounds won in fight and tourney, and withered by hardship and labor to a leather-like toughness. He had fought upon the king's side in all the late wars, and had at Shrewsbury received a wound that unfitted him for active service, so that now he was fallen to the post of captain of squires at Delvin Castle. A man disappointed in life, and with a temper embittered by that failure, as well as by cankering pain. Yet, perhaps, no one could have been better fitted for the place he held than Sir James Lee. The lads under his charge were a rude, rough, unruly set, quick, like their elders, to quarrel, and to quarrel fiercely, even to the drawing of sword or dagger. But there was a cold, iron sternness about the grim old man that quelled them, as the trainer with a lash of steel might quell a den of young wolves. The apartments in which he was lodged with his clerk were next to the dormitory of the lads, and even in the midst of the most excited brawlings, the distant sound of his harsh voice, "Silence, messieurs," would bring an instant hush to the loudest uproar. It was into this grim presence that Myles was introduced by Guskin. Sir James was in his office, a room bare of ornament or adornment, or any superfluous comfort of any sort, without even so much as a mat of rushes upon the cold stone floor to make it less cheerless. The old one-eyed knight sat gnawing his bristling mustaches. To anyone who knew him, it would have been apparent that, as the castle phrase went, the devil sat astride of his neck, which meant that one of his blind wounds was aching more sorely than usual. His clerk sat beside him, with account books and parchments spread upon the table, and the head squire, Walter Blunt, a lad some 3 or 4 years older than Myles, and half a head taller, black-browed, powerfully built, and with cheek and chin darkened by the soft budding of his adolescent beard, stood making his report. Sir James listened in grim silence, while Guskin told his errand. "So then, pardee, I am bid to take another one of ye, am I?" he snarled, "as though ye caused me not trouble enough, and this one a cub, looking a very boor in carriage and breeding. Maybe the Earl thinks I am to train boys to his dilly-dally household services, as well as to use of arms." "Sir," said Guskin timidly, "my lord says he would have this one entered direct as a squire of the body, so that he need not serve in the household." "Say ye so?" cried Sir James harshly. "Then take my message back again to your lord. Not for Mackworth, no, nor a better man than he, will I make any changes in my government. If I be set to rule a pack of boys, I will rule them as I decide, and not according to any man's bidding. Tell him, sirrah, that I will enter no lad as squire of the body, without first testing whether he be fitted arms to hold that place. He sat for a while glowering at Myles, and gnawing his moustaches, and for the time no one dared to break the grim silence. "What is your name?" said he suddenly, and then, almost before Myles could answer, he asked the head squire whether he could find a place to lodge him. "There is Gilles Whitlock's cot empty," said Blunt. "He is in the infirmary, and no doubt goes home again when he comes thence. The fever has gotten into his bones, and—" "That will do," said the knight, interrupting him impatiently. "Let him take that place, or any other that ye have. And ye, Jerem," said he to his clerk, "ye may enter him upon the roll, though whether it is to be as page or squire or bachelor shall be as I please, and not as Mackworth bids me. Now get ye gone." "Old Bruin's wound smarts him sore," Guskin observed, as the two lads walked across the armory court. He had good naturally offered to show the newcomer the many sights of interest around the castle, and in the hour or so of ramble that followed, the two grew from acquaintances to friends with a quickness that boyhood alone can bring about. They visited the armory, the chapel, the stables, and the great hall, the painted chamber, the guard-house, the mess-room, and even the scullery, and the kitchen with its great range of boilers and furnaces and ovens. Last of all, Myles' new friend introduced him to the Armor Smithy. "My lord has sent a piece of Milan armour here to be repaired," said he. "Would ye like to see it?" "Ay," said Myles eagerly, "that would I." The smith was a gruff, good-natured fellow, and showed the piece of armour to Myles readily and willingly enough. It was a beautiful bascinet of inlaid workmanship, edged with a rim of gold. Myles scarcely dared to touch it. He gazed at it with an unconcealed delight that warmed the smith's honest heart. "I have another piece of Milan here," said he. "Did I ever show you my dagger, Master Guskin?" "Nay," said the squire. The smith unlocked a great oaken chest in the corner of the shop, lifted the lid, and brought out a handsome dagger, with a handle of ebony and silver gilt, and a sheath of Spanish leather, embossed and gilt. The keen, well-tempered blade was beautifully engraved and inlaid with needlework, representing a group of figures in a then popular subject, the Dance of Death. It was a weapon at once unique and beautiful, and even Guskin showed an admiration scarcely less keen than Myles' openly expressed delight. "To whom does it belong?" said he, trying the point upon his thumbnail. "There," said Smith, "is the jest of the whole, for it belongs to me. Sir William Buccleuch bade me order the weapon through Master Gilsworthy of London town, and by the time it came hither, lo, he had died, and so it fell to my hands. No one here pays the price for the trinket, and so I must keep it myself, though I be but a poor man." "How much do you hold it for, Guskin?" 17 shillings buys it," said the armourer carelessly. "Ay, ay," said Guskin with a sigh. "So it is to be poor, and not be able to have such things as one loves and would fain possess. 17 shillings is nearly as much by half again as all my yearly wage." Then a sudden thought came to Myles, and as it came his cheeks glowed as hot as fire. "Master Guskin," said he with a gruff awkwardness, Ye've been a very good, true friend to me since I came to this place, and have befriended me in all ways ye could, and I, as well I know, but a poor rustic clod. Now I have 40 shillings by me, which I may spend as I wish, and so I do beseech you to take yon dagger of me as a gift, and have and hold it for your very own." Guskin stared open-mouthed at Myles. "Do you mean it?" said he at last. "Aye," said Myles, "I do mean it. Master Smith, give him the blade." At first the smith grinned, thinking it all a jest, but he soon saw that Myles was serious enough, and when the 17 shillings were produced and counted down upon the anvil, he took off his cap and made Myles a low bow as he swept them into his pouch. "Now, by my faith and troth," said he, "that I do call a true lordly gift. Is it not so, Master Guskin?" "Aye," said Guskin with a gulp, "it is in truth." And thereupon, to Myles's great wonderment, he suddenly flung his arms about his neck, and giving him a great hug, kissed him on the cheek. "Dear Myles," said he, "I tell ye truly, and of a verity I do feel warm toward you from the very first time I saw you, sitting like a poor oaf upon the bench up yonder in the anteroom. And now I truly give you assurance that I do love you as my own brother. Yea, I will take the dagger, and I will stand by you as a true friend from this time forth. Ye may need a true friend in this place before ye live long with us. For some of us esquires are rough, and knocks are more plenty here than broad pennies, so that one new come is like to have a hard time gaining a footing." "I thank you," said Myles, "for your offer of love and friendship, and to tell you, upon my part, that I also of all the world would like the best to have you for my friend." Such was the manner in which Myles formed the first great friendship of his life, a friendship that was destined to last him through many years to come, as the two walked back across the great quadrangle upon which fronted the main buildings of the castle. Their arms were wound across each other's shoulders.